Okay, good morning, everybody. Today is March 29th, class 13 of CAD 212. Today in class, we're going to have a design discussion, talk about making sure that you're following the client guidelines in your design, talk about window alignment, and open the floor for any questions you have in regards to the project. Then in Revit, we're going to talk about underlay views, how those work. They kind of help you work through your first and second and third floors. We'll start our stairs today. We'll talk about the different types, stairs with landings and then railings. We'll talk about openings. As we create these stairs, you'll notice that there's ways that we're going to have to cut holes in the floors in order to let those stairs through. And then we're talking about manipulating constraints, which is also a big one. This will be wall heights, ceiling heights, so it can start getting everything aligned and make things look correct, especially when it comes to our actual construction drawings. After that, a lot of work to be done. There's only like 5 weeks left of class, and your final is going to be on May 5th. So we do have 5 weeks left, 10 classes left before the final. So still a lot to do. So as you're moving into your floor plans for this week, you should have a pretty good idea by Wednesday of how you want these floors to align, how you want to make sure that that lays in your the assignment for your client guidelines, and pretty much getting your design ideas kind of straightened out. So you should be a big difference between the model that you turned in this past week to the next week. Lots of work to be done, adding walls, windows, doors, and starting to create your interior finishes. Also, if you have bigger ideas as far as how you want to renovate the exterior of the building, you can do that as well. So like I said before, you have carte blanche as far as any kind of design ideas that you have for that. So that being said, we'll go ahead and jump into the design discussion today and go through a couple of things and then open the floor for questions. All right. One of the things that I did note from some people's models was we need to make sure that we are following the client guidelines. What I've had before in previous classes when we've done this, is some people aren't actually paying attention to what the client asks specifically for at the beginning. So you may have great ideas as far as some things are concerned, but you want to make sure that you're definitely following the guidelines for the second floor. The second floor should contain 4 office spaces, restrooms for men and women, janitor's closet, and mechanical room. So make sure that it at least contains those spaces. And then the third floor is 7 offices with different restrooms. There, granted, you didn't get a lot of other information on that, but this is at the moment the minimum that is required of these spaces. Another thing I noticed on people's projects, was window alignment. So what you want to think about as far as window alignment is concerned, how the building is going to look from the outside. So we have some buildings that are kind of a little all over the place, kind of scattered, windows that are kind of lined up like this. You want to think about not only how those windows function on the interior of the building, but how they look on the exterior of the building. This project right here has a wall that is inside out. Usually when I review these projects, I will catch this and I will make sure to make note of that in your notes. So make sure you do review those and get those things corrected. So I try and catch those, put those notes in there for you to make things easier for you. And that way you don't have to be going through your entire model with these issues. So whoever this is, make sure you swap those walls back. And then I would look at a different alignment for these windows. If you have windows that look like this and you don't want them to be stacked on top of each other, maybe have them centered in the middle of all of these windows that make it look a little bit different. But the idea is when you're looking at the exterior of the building, it should make sense, not just how the windows are aligned functionally on the interior. Does that make sense, y'all? You could actually have these aligned up so they're like on the same plane this way as well. I take a look at that or maybe redo those. So the other thing, let's see. I can jump into the other stuff later, but right now I just wanted to bring your attention to that window alignment. We'll also be adding a curtain wall to this building. Curtain walls are going to be going in all one particular location, and then I kind of open it up from there, but we'll talk about that later as well. So let's go ahead and just open up the floor to any kind of client questions that y'all have, any design ideas that have come across as you were just kind of like contemplating this project and thinking about how you want it to look and what you think the client needs. So let's take a few minutes just to open up to any questions. So.
Well, I had the question that I asked you about wondering like what type of office space is it going to be? Because I just was noticing how like big the space was for 4 offices. So I didn't know if it maybe was like 4 offices that are going to be rented out as like corporate real estate type of thing to other people and then subdivided into maybe more individual offices, or I mean, or is it like you can do 4 offices plus whatever else you have space for? They just need a minimum of 4 just normal sized offices.
Great question. The second half of the question, remember we want to stick strictly with just what they're asking for. And that is just this. So we do want 4 office spaces. And you're right, those are going to be really big. So that is a good question to ask, to kind of follow up the client about and wonder like, okay, so, you know, what is going on with these spaces? Well, 2 of those spaces are going to be classroom size spaces, and they're going to need to accommodate like 50 people each. So 2 of those spaces you'd want to make a little bit bigger. And then the other 2 office spaces, you just want to kind of just regular office spaces. There's nothing important that's going on in those rooms. They're just regular office spaces at the moment. We just need to have that space in order to develop stuff later on. But we do know that 2 of those are going to be classrooms, such as this right here. This room right here is a larger room set to accommodate a kind of a classroom style setting. So you can think about maybe the same thing, how you would necessarily figure that out on the second floor. Now we don't have our code numbers to say how many people per room per size. Some things like that you'd have to look at. But you know, think about, you know, what would be the best way to use that space as far as a classroom size.
Okay, so don't add anything else to the floor plan besides just what exactly is on there. So don't make like a break room or something like that.
Correct. We just
to those things.
Exactly. We want to stick with just that. Exactly. This is the space that the client is requiring. They want to stick with this outline right here of how the rooms are going to be. So these rooms on the second floor are going to be big. Some of them are going to be big, but that's what they are requiring right here. They're going to be smaller offices on the second floor. The other questions are great questions, but they don't have an answer for that at the moment. So the main thing is kind of stick with this, but make 2 classrooms, 2 rooms that would obviously be a bit bigger on the second floor. And another thing that we would have to consider is the size of this building. And if you've got 2 classrooms with 50 people in, you want to consider the size of the bathrooms as well. You don't want to make a small bathroom on these floors. Yeah, think about that as, you know, functionally, how would you accommodate that? And this is stuff that you would get from code, but we don't have that at the moment. So just make your best judgment on how that would look. This means that you would probably want to design a bathroom with at least 3 stalls and not 1. That way it kind of works out a little bit better for you. There's a lot more that goes into it. I'm just trying to give you all a little bit of a little taste of what's going on. All right. Any other questions? Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and move on to the Revit lecture for today. If you do have questions that pop up, you can go ahead and text me, and then we can answer them from there. But as we start getting closer to Wednesday, these ideas should be firming up in your head about how you want these things to look, and kind of we'll have a nice big change in your project by this next week. So lots of stuff to do this week. Okay, let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. I had a couple of questions about underlay views and views as you're getting onto these 2nd and 3rd floors, what these underlay views look like and how we work with that. And this should help a little bit. There's a couple of people that said that when they were on their 3rd floor, they couldn't see anything below. And there's ways that we can change these views. And as we progress through, especially on our 2nd floor, when we start laying out these for our, we start putting these guys on our sheets, how we want them to look, we want to make sure that we turn off this underlay view here. So you can't see the walls underneath. These walls aren't lined up, so I'd probably take another look at this, whoever's this is, and kind of make sure that those walls are aligned on top of each other, because this is, we could actually just kind of change this 1st floor wall. Instead of adding a 1st floor wall, just add that one, and you could bring that all the way up to level 4. And that would probably be an easy way to make sure that that wall is goes the correct length, correct location throughout the entire building. Is bring that up a little higher. So back to the underlay view. Notice on the 2nd floor, you can see the 1st floor beneath the locations of the walls and things like that. Here's another wall. If they're supposed to be on the same level, they're off a little bit right here. Remember, you can change the size of that. We'll talk about the way that we adjust the height of walls and things like that. But as far as the underlay view is concerned, yes, sometimes we want to see it because we want these walls lined up on one top of each other. We want to use that as part of our design concept. There's a couple of ways we can do that. But when we turn this into an actual sheet, we don't want to see these walls underneath it. We want to make sure that those are turned off. And how we do that is we go to our properties. We go to our underlay. And this is base range. So we're looking down to level 1. But we could set that to none, and that'll turn off those walls underneath. So this is kind of a better view that we have here for those under walls. If we want to do the same thing for our 3rd floor, and we want to actually see the walls this time on our 3rd floor, here we have our base range or underlay is set to none. We can set that to level 2. And you can see that our walls on our 2nd floor, I believe some of these are supposed to be lined as well, but they're, yeah, that one looks pretty good. These are off a little bit. And if you're trying to duplicate the same hallway, it's off a little bit here as well. But you can see how you can use this different underlay view to kind of check the location of your walls. But when you're putting on a sheet, you definitely want to have them set to none. So the only walls that you're seeing are the walls on that floor itself. Does that make sense, y'all? One other design idea I want to talk about on this space right here is the use of this long hallway. Well, that's fine. You can align this however you want. What is I would correct is this space down here. So space is always at a premium, storage is always at a premium. This is a dead end. This is a hallway to nowhere. There's no need for this to be laid out like this. What I would do, a couple of different things on this. I would shorten that up. And then if you added just another wall space in here, you just added that chunk of space to that classroom. Or if you left it like that, then you can put a door here, or you could even subdivide it like this. And then you can put a door on this side and a door on this side, and you've added closets and storage spaces to each one of these rooms. So don't leave dead space. Think about how things are going to end. This is all space that was going to be unused, but just by putting a simple wall right here, we actually added this and made it a little bit more functional, either more office space or storage space. So you can plan for storage space as you're creating these rooms. Think about that, especially in some of those bigger rooms that you have on the second floor that you're like, oh, I don't know what to do with all that. You can make storage space because that's not technically separate. It is part of that room itself. So that could help with that. So this could either be, you could either make this a larger room, or you could create storage space on either one of those, but don't leave those dead ends in that empty and that space that's just kind of hanging out there doing nothing. Any questions about that? Okay, cool. All right, let's jump into the meat and potatoes of today. Stairs. Stairs is kind of a biggie, and so is manipulating constraints. So let's jump into stairs. So I'm going to start a new file just so we can kind of play with different kind of stairs. Make sure that you're always opening an architectural template. I've had a couple of people that have opened a different template. Make sure it's always architectural. And let's just play with some stairs in this one, and then we'll apply them to that project itself. So for stairs, we're going to go to Architecture tab, Circulation panel, and Stair tool. So we're going to click on stairs. When you click on that, it's going to default to the run and this straight line staircase. There's also these different type of staircases that you can create. And what it does is using the parameters in your properties already to create that staircase. So I'm just going to create a couple staircases and we'll take a look at them. So for straight run stairs, let's just click there. From the parameters that are in your properties, it knows how many stairs to put in. These are kind of preset. There's ways that you can change this later on to make stairs look a little bit different for yourself. But just learning them, just stick with these basics for now because they can be a little bit complicated. It automatically works in your rise and run. So it's really, they've made it a lot easier, but you can change these as you get more comfortable with them. So that's a straight run stairs. Next staircase we're going to do is this L-shaped stairs. This one's pretty nice because you don't have to worry about the stairs. It's already kind of preset and it already kind of comes in the shape that you want. Same thing with our U-shaped stairs. And then we've got a couple of different ways to make circular staircases. Oops. Let's finish these. Let that process. It's just giving me the error because I did a bunch of staircases in one time. All right, and then we'll do full spiral staircase. Oops. That one I want to finish. So every time you finish one, you're going to hit that green check mark. All right, let's go to 3D and take a look at these. So these look very similar, but as you continue to play with them, you'll notice how they work a little bit different. You can use these on other design ideas. We're not going to be using the circular and semicircular staircases in this design. You can use either the U-shaped or there's another staircase type that we're going to do in a second. I just wanted to kind of show you these. So as you're working with other designs, you can see these staircases come in pretty quickly and nicely. Revit's definitely changed over the years and made things a lot easier to build with these. And then there's ways that we can customize these. So if you click on the railings work separate from the stairs itself. So you can change the railings and not the stairs. So if you wanted to change this railing right here, we could click on that one and you could go into edit type. And just like we have all the other stuff, you want to duplicate, rename it. We can go into rail structure. You don't have to do this. I don't want to show you too much about this, but for those of you who have time to play with it, you can go in and play with it. You're not expected to do that, but you can come in and play with this and kind of figure it out. Here's like a rectangular 2.5. Where'd it go? So we can change that to a circular if we wanted to. So it's very highly customizable. What you need to take away from this is just how to do the staircase. And if you have time, you can come in and play with all this other stuff, especially as we go down the pipe. You can change materials if you want. Don't get wrapped up in this. Remember how to do it, and then you can come back and play with it when you get a chance. And okay, out of that. We have so much going on, I'm not sure which one it did. So before you start laying in your staircase, just go in and just kind of play with them a little bit and see how they work. It's pretty basic. What we are going to be using for our staircase is a little bit of a twist on this straight run staircase right here. So we're going to go back to our stair tool. Oh, I want to go back to a level 1 view. And we're still going to do the run with a straight staircase. So we're going to start, and if you run, as you move it forward, you notice it's going to tell you how many risers you've created. And if I just want to do like a landing here, I can click. The hardest part is figuring out where you want to draw that the next time. In 3D. And this is the one I just created. So this is what we're looking to do. We're looking to do a straight run staircase with a landing. So you're going to do a straight run, then you stop, and then you create the landing just by moving over it, and then you finish the rest of the staircase. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. So what I'd suggest before you start playing with it in your model itself, open up a practice and just kind of practice this, doing it until you make yourself feel comfortable with it. So total stairs is 18, so I stopped at 9, which is half, just to keep it even. So let's do that one more time. So stair tool. I'm going to start here And there it tells me that 9 risers have been created. So I'm going to click and stop there. I'm just moving over to the right, and I can adjust this with my temporary dimensions, and you'll see how it kind of plays when we put it in our actual building. And we'll move forward, and that just creates our entire staircase right there. So sometimes it just takes a little practice, but it's really not that hard once you get used to it. All right, so those are different staircases. This is the one that we're going to be using in our building. Let's go ahead and jump into the building and kind of play with it there. Close this. All right, so we're going to start our staircase in level 1. All our staircases are going to be in this room right here. Let's fill with that a little bit and see how it's going to look. All right, so let's start with our stair tool. And you want to think about, and this is per code, how these door swings are going to work. You always want to have at least a 4-foot landing on here for the door swing, but we have plenty of room in here, so we can actually kind of start our wall back, our staircase back here. So let's click on there. And notice when I did that, I've got something weird that looks like this, like the staircase is coming up through the middle of the wall. Well, we can adjust that before we get started with the settings. So if I wanted to do that again, what I'd want to do is come back up to my options bar. And notice here it has a location line. We want to change that from center, which is why it was centering on the walls. We want to change that to a run right. And now when I do that, oops, run left. When I change that to run left, it attaches to that correct side of the wall. Now, you're going to end up with something that looks like this, which looks weird. Let's go ahead and just close it out and look at it in 3D. Wait, so we want to manipulate it and change this a little bit. Notice how my stair is going to land where I want it to. It's going to finish where it should. Sometimes this will be off a little bit. If you've changed your height offset on this part, it may change the way this ends here. But as long as this floor is set on level 2 at 10 foot, you'll be fine. And no, it does look like it terminates here, but if we have the way if we have the detailed drawing of how this staircase is going to be connected, this is correct. So that may look a little weird there, but that is correct. The only reason we're seeing it like this is because we're using our hidden line views. So a couple of things that I want to do to fix this is I want this part of the staircase flush with the back wall. So I don't know what that exact measurement is, but I'm just going to use my directional arrows to do that. Then I'm going to use my align tool. And I want that aligned with that. And when we click those together, that just kind of aligns this staircase with this flush with this wall. So obviously there's windows in the way, so that window's got to go. I'm going to eliminate that window later. So we've got something that looks like that, which looks a lot better. Another thing, let's go back to jump to level 1. So we've got all this dead space over here. You can leave this dead space, or you can kind of manipulate this the staircase a little bit more. So let's go into edit stairs. You can use your directional arrows to move that over. Once we have that, we'll have our correct measurement. We can also use our align tool that we want. Oops, did that work? Align tool. That wall aligned with this part of the staircase. Now we'll pull that over there. Also, if I take a look at the run of these stairs, the run width is actually 3 foot wide. I can change that to 4 foot or 5 foot or whatever I wanted it to do. Hit apply. Hit my green check mark. I would want to have changed that before I adjusted the width and stuff, but that's okay. You want to do that first. And here, just go ahead and turn on the color and see a little bit better. So you can see how you can kind of manipulate and twist and change everything a little bit to get it to the way you want it to look like. So what I would suggest is making it look something like this. If you wanted to use one of those smaller staircases and have it pushed over, that's fine like that. But this is kind of a really nice use of space here. So I'll leave that up to you, but it is best to use this type of staircase in this, especially in a commercial building when you think about the number of people that are going to be going around here. If you look at some of that those other staircases, not going to be the best for traffic flow, especially this staircase here. People be tripping over those stairs. Are very narrow, even with these angles. It's always best to use one with a landing, and all of that is dependent on code. But for this one, we're just going to use this staircase right here, and you can modify it how you want to. All right, so once we've got our staircase in, well, we have this problem that we can't really get through our floor. We're going to be hitting our head on here. So we actually have to put a hole in this floor. There's a couple of different ways that we can do that. So I'm going to jump to level 2. And one of the easiest ways to do it is just to highlight the floor, make it active, and click on Edit Boundary. And all we're going to be doing there is just editing the shape of that floor, how we want it to end. I'm drawing in the rest of the shapes that I want. Oops, that didn't look right. So I want this flush with this part. So it's flush with the stairs. I'm gonna use my corner tool to trim off this extra stuff. Close this gap. And I'll hit the green check mark. Don't attach. I don't want these attached right now. And 3D view. Pretty good. So this is what we want to look for, something like this. We'll talk about this wall later. But now we have a nice landing here, and we have this nice spot where people can like fall to their deaths. So we want to fix that as well. So how do we fix that? We go back to level 2, and all we're going to do is add a railing there. So we're going to go back to Architecture tab, Circulation Panel, Railing Tool, and we're just going to draw a railing in that spot. Bring it all the way across to here. And green check mark and 3D. And we have our railing right there. You kind of see it a little bit better there, but that'll work. Once again, with the railings, if you have the railing active, And if I had accidentally drawn this on level 1, all I have to do is change the level here in order to move the location of it. So you can see it's dropped there if it's on level 1, and on level 2, it's where it's supposed to be. So in order to add a third floor, all you'd have to do is go to the third staircase and repeat the same thing on level 3. Now, there's other ways that we can create this opening here, just so you have the information if you wanted to do another design or something like that. Say if you did have a round staircase and it was coming up in the middle of this room over here for some reason, we go ahead and click on that floor. Actually, we could go to, click on that floor, hit edit boundary. And instead of manipulating the boundary that's already there, we're going to go ahead and just create any kind of shape we want. And that's going to put a hole in that flooring. Let's do it over here so you can see it too. Edit boundary. So if it's not flush with the wall and you have to put it out here in the middle of the space, you can do it like that. And 3D view. So you can see now we have this rectangular space in this hall right here. Same thing you can do with walls and windows and door and walls. Is that you can do the same thing as if you edit the profile and we wanted to put a hole in this wall, we could just draw that. And now when we go back, that's not a window opening or anything, that's just an opening we created, which is nice if you want to incorporate like something like that into like your design ideas and stuff. That could look really interesting. Obviously not into a classroom, but if it was a wall. So anyway, any questions about that? That was a lot of information in a short period of time. It's just a matter of just a little practice. But any questions about that? Do y'all need me to do that over? What I'd suggest doing between now and Wednesday is practice your staircases, see if you can get them in. If you have problems with the stairs, then you can ask on Wednesday. All right, what else we got going on today? Oh, I did openings. All right, here's another big one, manipulating constraints, wall heights and ceiling heights. This is where we're going to get our section views and stuff like looking really nice. Like when we're over in this view, how, let's change this. Oops. So I don't think we can see it in here, but some of these floors, and depending on how you've done your work, some of these floors will go through your second floor. It depends on the height. We always want to make sure that this section view looks nice and it's portraying the information that we want it to. Let me drop in a couple of ceilings in here, and then it'll be a little bit clearer how we want to manipulate that. And drop a ceiling in these two rooms. All right, so remember, I'm accidentally hit floor plans instead of ceiling, so it's not going to be showing up in here. Let me go ahead and go to ceiling plan level 1. Somebody did put their ceilings in. I just couldn't see them. Where are they located? On 8 foot. So what's got me puzzled is this is set to 8-foot ceiling and ceiling plan, but when I go to 3D, I do not see the ceiling. Since this is set to an 8-foot ceiling, it should show up, obviously right here where it should be hanging out. What I'm going to do is turn on, these are actually hidden a different way. So in order to detect those ceilings, what I need to do is come down here and hit reveal hidden elements. So if I click on reveal hidden elements, you'll notice that the ceiling is in place. It was just hidden with a right click instead of the temporary hide isolate. So in order for me to turn these ceilings back on, I can click on one of the ceilings, right click, put unhide in view and category. Now, when I turn this off, the ceilings will be back. So, and that just happens when you grab something, you right click and you put hide in view, element or category. This is obviously hidden by category. And then you have to go and use reveal hidden elements to turn it back on. So that's what happened there. So, but that's good because we do have our ceilings in place now. And I'll come back to this in a second, but notice when we have our ceilings in place and all this other stuff in place, we've got things all on different levels. Our ceilings are here, our floors up here. Sometimes when we have our walls set to 10 feet, the walls are going through here. So we want to make sure everything is flush and correct how we want it to be. So what we want to do is we want to have this ceiling flush with the underside of this floor above it. So I'm going to click on one, and remember, it's just all a height offset thing. So here our height offset is 8 feet. Let's try 9 feet and see where that's going to bring us. All right, that'll work. Remember, with this ceiling, that kind of defaults is 4 inches thick, which is weird. It's you know, we're actually going to be creating a acoustical ceiling tile system. There would be a gap between that if it was that we kind of address that a little bit more in structural class. But for this class, we want this to be a gypsum roof, a gypsum ceiling, and have it flush with the top part of this. That's what we're looking to do. And then if this wall, sometimes these walls, this is set up to level 2. Just checking something. Okay, if your walls are protruding through your ceiling floor, you want to do the same thing and do that height offset and make sure that they are flush with the underside of that. So you want to do that with all floors and ceilings and walls. So for our ceilings, we'll go back to this one. And notice we don't want to do these on every, you know, we don't do every single one. It gets a little monotonous. We can do them all at the same time. So we'll hit right click. We can do select all instances, which is obviously selecting them all. We're going to do in this one an entire project. The difference between the two is if you have a really large project and you don't want them done in all of your areas, obviously you just want to narrow it to visible in view, but we know in this project all of them are going to be set to pretty much the same level. So we'll do that. And we'll change this to 9 foot. And that's going to bring all our ceilings up at the same time. Notice how it did that. So this one was individually. By doing select all instances, this will do it all at the same time for those. Then once we did that, notice we're head back to that same problem with our staircase. We have this gap right here that needs to be created. So we're just going to do that the same way. We're going to click on that ceiling type. We're going to click on edit boundary. We're going to go to a top down view. Oops, let's cancel out of that. Let's hide some stuff. All right, edit boundary. Now we're just going to make this the same as that one right there. That work? Doesn't look like it. Edit boundary. All right, now we have our ceiling flush with the underside of our floor. And we have that opening set the same way for our second floor. So see if you can figure out how to use the stairs, kind of play with them a little bit. Goal should be to have the staircase in place. If you're having issues, come back on Wednesday and ask questions about that. Shouldn't have had to edit the floors and cut holes to create those openings in the ceiling and the floors. And then for your manipulating constraints, you should be able to get the floors and the ceilings and the walls all flush so they're not intersecting or showing through in any way, and that they're all in the correct location. So they look something like that. And then we'll go ahead and pick up on Wednesday. Any questions about this right now, y'all? Okay, if there's no questions, we'll go ahead and end class. Remember, I'm free. If you ever need anything, send me a text. I'll be happy to help you. If you've got questions about how to do stairs or any of this stuff, you know, bring them back on Wednesday, and just continue working on this. I'm really looking for interesting design ideas, changing all of this stuff. Go for it as far as like making this, especially the exterior, interesting and different in the interior. So yeah, you can change the walls. We're going to talk about a little bit another way how to do add some exterior interest next class with creating sweeps and reveals. So you don't have to have that finished, but I do want you to start thinking about where you want this building to go to make it look a lot different from the little building it is now, to make it look something really interesting. So that'll be it for today, y'all. So thanks, and let me know if you've got any questions. Bye.